Hi, everyone, and welcome to Beyond Talent Swim Podcast, Episode 3. Today, I have a friend and a fellow coach, Coach Kassim, here on the podcast from Sailfish Swimming Club. So, we have just come from Algeria. So, we during the selection process, there's quite a bit of hue and cry about how selections was done. People are talking about FINA points, people are talking about selections, and there was a big uproar that actually came. And the funny thing that happened was quite a number of parents were asking me, what are these FINA points? How do they do selections for Kenya national swimming team? Does my child need to swim more events? Does my child need to go abroad to get FINA points? How do they get selected? So sometime a few weeks ago, me and Kassim had actually just been chatting about selection criteria, even just before Algeria had come. And he had some very interesting perspectives that even I had not thought of. So I thought today would be an interesting time for us to just cover FINA points, Kenya swimming selection. Is it ideal? Are there better ways in which we can do it? What are some of the historical ways in which we have done selection in the past? How do the US, how do South Africa do their selections? So yes, welcome, Coach Kassim.
Thank you so much, Daktari, for the invite and everything. I think that documentation was done by accident, but it came at the right time.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. So before we get into the nitty-gritties, it's good for us. We normally see him on deck, very passionate about his swimmers. Maybe, Kassim, you can tell us a bit about yourself, your club, what are your ethos, what are your values, and what is it that brought you into this sport?
I'll start by saying that I started coaching by accident again. Originally, I was a rugby player, very passionate still. I got into swimming because it's something I did without being forced. I did it whenever I wanted to. I swam on my own terms. So when I left the sport, I never left the sport when I feel like kind of bitter. When I got back at it, I felt like I had so much to offer. I'm currently the head coach at the Sailfish Swim Club. I properly believe that the sport is not tapped into yet. There are very many scientific ways of handling the sport and also making the sport fun. Uh, we have a structural, systematic coaching program. We already have a pathway for all our swimmers. Some of them are very definite. For the 11 and under, they're not definite. We focus on fun, skill, and above all, keeping them in the sport as much as we can. I've been coaching for over 10 years, and I've done a couple of international meets, a ton of experiences and lessons, and that's why we're here.
Perfect. So I think we share values because this podcast was also started to try and keep kids in the sport for longer. And we have actually discussed this over time.
Yeah.
So as we start this process and we move back to a week ago, 1.5 weeks ago, and there was a bit of hue and cry about the selection criteria, parents want to wonder, what is FINA points or World Aquatic points? What are they? How are they calculated? How do they help us? What is this FINA points?
Okay, so basically, FINA points are they're like numbers or numerical values assigned to every event according to the how close the event is close to the world records. So you find like the world record is 1,000, the highest that is. So these FINA points are actually put in place to make sure there's a lot of transparency, there's a lot of uniformity, there's selection pathway, and there's a lot of universal selection capabilities when it comes to just comparing the average baseline. So if I were to call it in a nutshell, I'd say World Aquatic points are basically a tool to calculate performance value per event.
Okay.
Yes, per distance also.
Okay, so maybe we can just debunk a few myths that I keep getting. Number one, the more events you swim, the more FINA points you get. Is that correct or incorrect?
That's a lie.
Okay.
That's a lie because we can say that you'll swim 50 freestyle and let's say you swim across all the freestyles, but your times are no good. Remember, FINA points are numerical assigned numbers. So the closer you are to the world record, which currently is 20 seconds, right?
Yes.
So that's 1,000 points. You can swim 38 and still say that you have more points. You have to swim something closer to that. So I'd say coaches, parents, and athletes, swimmers precisely, need to be more numerical and more strategic in the events they swim. I don't think swimming many galas actually give you more points. I feel swimming strategically and also swimming in competitive zones give you better FINA points.
Okay, myth number 2, which I normally get, do you have to travel abroad, like going to South Africa, America, to achieve these FINA points, or can you do them locally?
I could say yes or no.
Okay.
I'd say yes because you look at the way the international meets are organized, proper touch pads, proper diving blocks, proper timing scales, and proper competition. So naturally, you'll find like a swimmer is used to winning here. Okay, when they go to South Africa, example of South Africa junior nationals, they get high level of competition. Let's say the first event they might not be all in, but after realizing the level of competition you get, that you'll wake up from that sleep. So I feel the exposure level for international meets actually psychologically help these swimmers to compete better and also have better appetite on how to approach the sport.
Okay, so I have some parents who tell me that the reason they have not been able to get the FINA points up is because in Kenya, you cannot achieve a FINA point in Kenya. You have to go to South Africa or abroad for the points to actually be added to the database. Is that accurate, or can you actually go for nationals and achieve a FINA point?
You can go to nationals and achieve the FINA points. It goes back to monotony.
Yeah.
You can swim the same event 4 times or 5 times in a year and actually get to drop times to a level of getting that threshold FINA points. It goes back to what I said earlier. How exposed is an athlete to an event? If I swam 50 freestyle yesterday and I'm swimming it today, the probability of me dropping and adding is 100%. FINA points are logarithms. You know that. So you need to keep these logarithms up at all times. The problem is you only have one nationals in this country. And it's the only nationals that actually are FINA sanctioned or World Aquatics sanctioned. So you find that the probability of you continuously performing at your high level is lowered by only having one shot. So if you had, let's say, 2 nationals, let's say in February, and 1 nationals, let's say in December, there's a lot of capability, possibilities period that a swimmer can actually correct things compared to every year swimming 1 event, 1 nationals without proper regression. When you go back to now international meets, the myth can be very true. If I go to South Africa, which I was there in February, the level of competition my swimmer gets, it will be very different. When they come back with that mindset, the competition, the demeanor, the reaction, everything changes. When I go to Tanzania, which I was there last month, you find that the same athlete, the confidence has grown. So I think confidence and swimming pattern and recovery is what build the FINA points. Yes.
Perfect. So for parents and coaches out there, you've had it. To get FINA points, number 1, you don't have to swim multiple events. It's the quality of the swim, how far you are from the world record, because right now the 50-free world record is 20.88.
Yes.
How close are you to that? Number 2, yes, you can achieve FINA points in Kenya as long as it's a World Aquatics sanctioned event, number 1. And then number 2, if you get exposure to international events, it gives your kids confidence to be able to improve their times. So now comes back to the next point.
Yeah.
So you shared with me a very robust and a very comprehensive paper, and I'll even have to get the title correct. Rethinking the FINA point selection threshold in Kenyan swimming.
Yes.
So I want you to just walk me through what the pros and the cons are of the FINA points. What are some of the gaps you have identified? And how can we mitigate some of those gaps? Just basically how it was in the paper. Just walk me through your paper.
So I'll start by stating one of the things I noticed with our selection criteria. Freestyle comes out as the monotony event. Every time there's a selection, the easiest event to build FINA points is actually freestyle. So you find that the swimmers who swim 200 breast, 200 fly, 400 IM will never get that chance to compete at elite levels because they don't hit the 500 FINA points. Going back to my research, you find that if we had an entry for the last 3 consecutive Africa Swimming Championships, we have a pool entry of 38 freestyle swims, 50 freestyle swims. Out of 38, only 17% made it to finals, and none of them made it to the podium. When you compare the same research on 200 backstroke, we had only 18 entries, sorry. Out of 18 entries, we had 8 make it to finals. That basically means 45% of these 200 backstrokers made it to finals. If you compare the freestyle and the backstroke, the freestyle for girls was at 620 plus points. The backstroke was at 338, actually the lowest. But the lowest FINA point still made it to finals and still actually had proper performance index compared to the freestyle. Now that's why I came up with that research. If they say that the FINA point does not make sense, it makes sense in 2 ways. The pros are very simple. First, it brings uniformity. You will know you're a coach, I'm a coach. If my swimmer comes with over 700 FINA points, I know how to handle this swimmer. I know the do's and the don'ts with this swimmer. I know the capability, and I know the exploitations I need to check. So that's uniformity. It comes to selection criteria. When you get a swim of 300 and 600, you clearly know who's a stronger swimmer. They tried and tested. So selection becomes very easy. It also goes to universal, what, how do you call it?
Universality.
Yeah, that word, universality. So universality also helps in FINA points because it shows consistent build-up of an athlete in a sport for so long. So as a coach, I can tell this swimmer, these are the things they can handle, these are they can't. When you go to the cons, one of them is queuing, the FINA points queuing merit. You find that let's give a comparison of 50 breaststroke and 50 freestyle. 50 breaststroke is 26 world record, okay? It's 1,000 points. Freestyle is 20. So basically that's 6 seconds. The problem is there's nobody who will ever break that world record unless the skewing changes. So you find that the world record has stood for so long. Who broke it? This
McAvoy.
Chinese guy.
Oh, you're talking about the 100 feet Pan.
Pan.
Yeah.
When Pan broke the world record, it was in place for almost 10 years plus.
Yeah.
Yes. So you find that this queuing will always disadvantage other strokes whatsoever. So another con comes in. The other con is that you find that most of the other freestyle swimmers, most of the other swimmers who swim the other stroke, the breaststrokers, the freestylers, and the aimers, they do more of freestyle in trading than their actual specialization. So by default, because everybody is looking for the FINA points, these guys spend a lot of time in the freestyle and actually ignore the main stroke of their choice. Because the main reason here, they're looking for FINA points to get selected. So they'll swim more freestyle than other stroke. And the last cons, it will be age bias. Age bias, what I mean by that is you can't compare 14-year-old and a 25-year-old. Okay? With a 14-year-old, there's a lot of capability exploitations in place. You can still correct the head position, the hip movement, and everything. But biomechanically, the 14-year-old has a lot of corrections to be done. The 24-year-old has or is almost out of the spot. The exploitation window is very narrow. So you find that the FINA points will always go for the older swimmer because they've been in the sport for so long and ignore this swimmer who's 14 who can actually build the confidence by putting them in these competitions. So you find that when you consider the FINA points, it's always age bias with the younger swimmers. That's all.
So I just wanted to summarize to see if I've gotten it right.
Yeah.
So let's look at an example of the previous Africa Champs that was hosted.
Yes.
Let's look at the 50 freestyle, for example.
Yes.
So our best time for the 50 free was, if I'm not wrong, at 23.98.
Yes.
That was not able to get us even into the final.
We're not in the finals.
However, would have given a very high FINA point amount.
Yes.
However, we do have an event like the 200 IM, for example, boys. If we had a boy who was swimming under 210, they would have maybe, let's say, 210 to 215 or below, would have lower FINA points, but a higher probability of making it to finals.
Yes.
So we are actually reducing our chances for us to actually make it to finals.
Yes.
So I've actually gotten that right. And that's when I read the paper that actually was sticking out. Because when I thought about the FINA point system, scientifically it makes sense. Because it's standardized, world record, algorithm.
It's dependable also.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you look on the ground, it's actually skewing the way we select. We're actually selecting more freestylers. Backstroke, for example, if we got a girl who was swimming a 31 or a 30, slightly lower FINA points, went to
Finals. Would have made finals. Yeah.
and gotten so would have made more consecutive finals.
Yes.
What it would have also done, it would have actually increased the breadth, because now swimmers are realizing, by the way, I can get in for backstroke, I can get in for butterfly, I can get in for for breaststroke.
Breaststroke.
So it actually widens it. And I think we imposed a point system in a country that maybe our demographics are different.
Let me just tell you something on the same sport. Our selection criteria is still very, very, very underdeveloped. So because it's underdeveloped, if we lean more on the FINA points, we're not producing the best performance. Okay? The best performance in terms of selection, event selection. So event selection should be open to a point that the top 2 per event should get selected, regardless of the FINA points. Because if you consider the FINA points, that 200 breaststroker will never make it to any international meets to represent the country. While ideally they can go out there and actually make finals. Yes.
So I'll play devil's advocate for a bit here. I spoke to one of the officials at Kenya Aquatics, and basically the rationale.
Okay.
They stated that they have put it at 500 FINA points because they want to raise the standards. So they're saying we want to raise standards.
Okay.
How would you answer that? So if I was here with, let's say I'm a Kenya Aquatics official and I tell you, Kassim, we want to raise standards. We do not want mediocre swims. We're not going to reduce it below 500 points. What would your answer be?
My question, it will not be an answer, but a question. Are you raising standard per event, or are you raising standard per overall selection criteria? Is it a threshold? Let's say, is it a threshold for all the swimmers must get 500 FINA points regardless of the stroke? Or is it 500 per event? That would be my first question. Is per event, then the quality is very good. Okay? But now the question will be, for which international meet? There's some international meet, 500 is below average. Okay? So it's a good thing to have that 500 mark, to have that 500 threshold, but it's biased in terms of performance. You can have, if they tell me it's a single threshold, then I'll argue my case. I'll say that's wrong. If they say it's event based, then I'll give my argue. I'll definitely say they're raising the standards, because that 200 breaststroke swimmer will have to swim the 200 breaststroke past 500, so that's okay. Yeah.
Even me, I just gave it some thought recently about just, you cannot raise standards without creating an environment for the standards to be met.
Thank you.
So if, for example, I want to go, if I'm in mining, for example, and I give a company a contract to mine, and all I give the tools that I give them to mine are clubs, these blunt clubs, and I tell them, guys, I want 200 kilograms of gold. Basically, you've set them up for failure. So my challenge also with the FINA point system, philosophically, it makes sense. But Kenya Aquatics, this is not me saying anything negative, it's just something to encourage them, is also improve the environment alongside improving the points. So instead of just saying, we want 500 FINA points, we're not taking on anyone else, no. It's, guys, we want to raise the standards to 500 FINA points, but for us to get there, we need to change a few things in the sport of swimming.
Yeah, that's true.
We need to improve our development swimming. We need to improve our infrastructure. We need to achieve these points. You can't just wake up one day and say, these are the points I needed to achieve, without giving people a clear roadmap. And that's why I have spoken time and time again about a long-term athlete development program for our country, so that at least we have a roadmap. How do we get 500 points without a roadmap?
That's true.
So that's been my biggest challenge. But I like the way you've answered it. So now, if you were given the opportunity to be the head of the selection committee of Kenya Aquatics, what policies, or how would you put selection criteria? what would this is now you. This is what your own personal opinion over your 10 years of experience.
Yes.
How would you do your selection criteria so that it's fair, free, and it can allow development?
I think this is actually where our discussion is, right? So I'll give our 4 steps of doing the criteria, which all of them are right. Some of their pros, some of their cons. Some are very sophisticated. The first one is the single threshold, which the currently Kenya Aquatics is using. The threshold is stroke biased. It will give a single 500 FINA points. You have to get over these. If you don't have over 500, you're not in the team. There's no specificity. There's no direction that actually everybody is going, but you can defend it. You can say, hey, I want everybody to get 500 FINA points. If you don't have it, that's your problem. That's the first one. Now, the last 3 will be my way of handling. I don't say they're right, but they're scientifically proven. The first one will be stroke specific standard bar. Okay. Stroke specific standard bar. I will do again my research for the last 3 consecutive Africa Swimming Championships. I look at who are the top 16? What are the time for the top 16? What are the time for the top 8? So my threshold will be, after calculating, I say, our last 200 breaststroke, this was the time. So anybody who wants to make it to the team, you must be in top 16. Very clear, very simple, very achievable. If I want to make it a little bit tighter, I'll say, if we just want to make finals, I'll look at the top 7. Who was number 7? What time was swam? Okay? I'll say now the selection for for Africa Junior Championships, the top 7 time will be our threshold time. Okay, so that's event specific. No FINA points mentioned. Just making sure that you have that time that will swim as top 7. So naturally, we're looking for guys who can swim finals. Who must swim finals? We're looking for a very robust, strong team. That would be the first selection from my side. Which, it will also raise the standards of swimming. The coaches have to up their games. The systems have to work for the athlete for those kind of standards because they're very, very, very deep. My second one, which is more of FINA points, I'll say we must have a threshold for event specific and athlete specific. So I'll say, for example, all athletes must have over 700 or 600 FINA points. That's a given. It's a flat threshold for per athlete or swimmer. Then we'll go event specific to raise the standards even higher. I'll say all the events must have 500 FINA points and above. So what are you doing? You're having swimmers who are very experienced in terms of FINA points. It brings uniformity in terms of selection. It shows experience of competition readiness for the 600 points. For event specific 550, we'll make sure that you're not just getting anybody to participate. You will make coaches do the work to work on the specific events. It will also force the athletes to be specific, to specialize early, because I'm not going to make a 200 fly swimmer swim freestyle every day. We'll have a roadmap already. The Kenya Aquatics, the selection needs 550 per event, 600. So that's already the first one. So the last one, which is very sophisticated, it needs a lot of data backing, is communicate early the criteria. And this is defendable because if you look at all the first world countries, the likes of France, Australia, Italy, they will communicate the criteria 12 to 18 months before the selection. So what does that mean? When you communicate 12 to 18 months, if I have top 6 swimmers in my club that I know can make to the national team, you've given us criteria. It's up to me, the coach, the club, and the support system to produce for the country the best athletes for that specific meet. It's sophisticated because you find that it will have to change over time. Those criteria have to be updated because you find with time there'll be too much competition and very high caliber of swimmers will pop out. Because if I say, for example, you have a stop swimmer, I want to mention, right? They swam 100 fly and they swam 1 minute. So we say our criteria for, let's say, World Champs, which is 2027, Our criteria, you must swim 600 FINA points in 100 fly. This swimmer will go crush that 600 points. So what's next? These criteria to be consistently redone. And that's the most sophisticated point, because when the Kenya Aquatics are actually communicating these criteria, one, they must accommodate all the swimmers' feedback. Two, they must work closely with the coaches and empower the coaches on how to get to these sophisticated criteria. Three, they must work with the parents so that also the backup of the swimmer supporters to be there. And the last one, they must also hold meetings to get feedback from the previous criteria that was sent, so that they're consistently on top. So those would be my points. I know they're very intense, but
Yes.
if we have to go that direction to produce the best, currently those are the things we have to do.
I love that. So those are the kind of ideas that I think need to be plugged into the our federation.
Yeah.
And even when you look at the current federation, when we're doing the selection criteria, I think coming up with a selection committee that would be able to come up with a good criteria. And we have coaches who have been coaching for over 20 years, the likes of Coach Fakri,
Yes.
Coach Shali.
Yeah.
These are people who should be integrated. Coach Malik,
Yes.
I forgot Coach Malik there, into the system.
Yes.
They have seen it all. They've seen all the criteria from the 90s coming all the way down, and people like you also being integrated into such a committee to be able to create policies that can be able to stand the test of time. Do you think that would help, or would that hinder progress?
That would help, but my biggest, I'll talk for myself.
Okay.
As a coach, I didn't grow into the sport. I said earlier, I swam whenever I felt like. When the school needed me, when I needed to go for East Africa Games, it was nothing very serious. So what got me the sport? I'm passionate. You find that even my systems, I have done my own certification, my own diplomas, my own stuff. The federation needs to educate coaches. That's what I'm saying in short. The federation needs to have consistent programs, not only bringing international coaches. We have the likes of Coach Ali, as you mentioned, Coach Fakri. These guys should now be given platforms to actually educate coaches like us, so that we also have we are empowered to produce better. Because if you find that you produce 4 Olympians, okay, hypothetically, you have what it takes to produce the next 20. So if you train other 5 coaches, it means you're producing the next 50. So basically, the Kenya Aquatics should consistently produce a calendar that coaches are empowered, at least 2 programs a year. And I know World Aquatics gives at least over 20.
I think I saw them.
Yes.
I saw the list.
Over 20 programs, and at least 10 to 15 coaches from every country are picked. I don't know if any were picked from our country. Anyway.
Yeah, so even me, I think coach education is very, very important. And it goes back to so the thing I worry about sports is we like doing things in such a juakali fashion. And whenever I talk about policies and standards and documentation, people look at me like I'm mad. And having a policy for education standards.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example, like what are the minimum standards for what we would call a coaching certification in Kenya, for example? Kenya Aquatics needs to come out clearly and tell us, for you to be a level 1, a level 2, a level 3 coach, this is what you need to have done in terms of your education pathway.
Yeah.
Because what has happened right now, it's a bit murky with regards to understanding the different levels. And so they need to come out clearly to put order and tell us this is what a selection criteria and education policy looks like. So that not every Tom, Dick, Harry can be running a course and then people come and say, I'm coach so-and-so, this is my certification.
Yeah.
So I'm really for Kenya Aquatics to stand up, create a standard. If it's level 1, how many days is it supposed to be? What is supposed to be covered? If it's level 2, what is supposed to be covered? What is a level 3 coach supposed to have covered? Because a level 3 coach for me is someone who has been able to produce a level 3 athlete. that is at least at a bare minimum.
Yeah.
And has a specific other things that are there. So yeah, that's number one. Number two, and I don't know if you share my sentiments.
Yeah.
Maybe through all this, it has shown us a gap in the swimming system that coaches also need to start noticing, that we are over focusing on freestyle at a young age.
That's true.
So we need to increase our depth with regards to, there's no scientific formula that says you have to swim freestyle half of the set or freestyle 90% of the set. No.
I'll give you some of the feedback I got from the top Olympic coaches.
Okay.
We have Coach Balint from South Africa, who happens to be a close friend.
Okay.
If you see his sets, butterfly sets, you'll run away. Okay?
Yes.
These guys will swim 4K of nothing but fly. He's produced the top fly swimmers in South Africa. If you look at Port Elizabeth Club that was established in 1898, has produced crazy number of Olympians. They have a pathway. And that's what we're adopting at Sailfish. There's a pathway. If your child gets to that level, you're okay. But we're not insisting that you have to complete all the pathways. Okay? These pathways are properly documented in the registration form. They're properly documented from the word go. We have a sit down with the parents. With our admin, we'll have some time with the parent and ask the parent, what is the end game? What do you want? How far do you want to go? There's some parents who will tell you, I don't want my child to be a competitive swimmer. We have so many of them at Sailfish. They'll come, they'll swim. You'll clearly tell this person does not want to compete. So, as a federation, you need to come up with outlined programs that actually, even if you say University of Nairobi or wherever campus, coaches can go then learn to swim program, all the levels, like the Australia swimming level 1 to level 7, intermediate coaching, level 1 to level 7. Then you go to competitive coaching. That's a whole nother topic. Then you go to elite performance, which now guys who produce swimmers in the national team should be taken through. So that's the biggest gap, that we still all rely on World Aquatics to give us programs, while these programs are out there. The ones that are available currently, most of them, they're microwavable. A coach will walk through the door 2-3 days later, they're certified. Okay? You ask yourself, you leave this certified coach, level 5, level 6 coach, with a 6-year-old to do just bubbles, hiding face in water, saying hi to the fish, saying hello to the birds. The child will be crying 30 minutes. What does that mean? There's no curriculum system to produce actual coaches to teach swimming. Not coach, teach swimming. So that's where the problem is.
Yes, and I think it's for the federation to come out clearly and show us what are the standards, what are some of these opportunities, and we need to leverage them. So let me go back to the next question. Yeah. So people are going to ask, okay, fine, we're here in Kenya, this is how we have done our selection.
Yeah.
So how do some of the other countries, maybe we can start close to home, maybe you can pick a good African country, South Africa or Egypt, how do they do their selection? And how do the states do their selection? Are there things we can adopt, or are they too advanced for us to adopt those things?
I'll start with the state. It's extremely, extremely advanced, and it's the highest pressure selection in the world. We're not even close to it. It's called the one-shot rule. The one-shot rule basically means there's one nationals for everybody in the country. Everybody must swim it. And they get the top 2 per event. It doesn't matter the FINA points, doesn't matter whether you're the top in the world. If you miss the top 2, that's it. It doesn't matter your ranking. It doesn't matter even if you broke the world record yesterday, but you don't make the top 2, that's it. So the US, that one is very crucial. It's very tough. The last one, they also do no exceptions. The no exceptions means they deal with the top 2 regardless of the situation. And they don't give room for second trials. Okay. So that one literally is way out of our league, unfortunately. I'll say it. And out of all this, you must have A times. There's no room for trial and error. Yeah. It must be an A time, and not just an A time. It's an A time meddling time. You must be in top 2 in the world. but they don't say it that loud. For the South Africa, is quite easier, but it's also very advanced. Them, they use the top 2 per stroke also. They don't consider FINA points. In fact, FINA points is just to help them coach better, produce better. The top 2 per event per stroke. So that's very, very competitive, because if you're 50 freestyle swimmers and you're swimming 21, one of you must swim 20. So it's extremely competitive. Then the last one, they come up with something I say that during Africa Junior Championships selection, they do what you call the wild card. If, let's say, an upcoming athlete is very strong and they're above 14, they're given those wild cards to go to world champs. So US don't do that, but South Africa do that for the next generation of selection. Let's say we have a 14-year-old who's swimming a 50 fly, let's say at 26 or at 27, they will give that girl an opportunity. Just not to medal, not to anything, but to get that experience and exposure. I think those are the major ones. Also, South Africa also do the FINA points when it's very crucial as a tiebreaker.
And then also, I don't know if this is correct about South Africa, but in the event a swimmer cannot make it to the country, they can apply to swim at a meet around the same time.
Yes.
Around the same time that, and then you have to get pre-authorization from South Africa
from the
Swimming.
federation,
And then you swim it, it gets recognized, and then they will rank you based on time, where they just draw it in a system, and it allows. In fact, the South African system is the closest to what I think we should.
Closest to us.
Yes, it's the closest
thing to what we're doing.
But ours, we have not been picking the top 2 of the weaker events, which is where we have been struggling a bit.
For South Africa now, what makes it special, because they look at the top 2. They do not care about the FINA points.
They want to increase breadth of the strokes.
Yes. They want to increase the number of participation per event on performance index. So they rather have the 200 breaststrokers, the 200 fly, the 400 IMers going to a team, even if they're the 300. Because now they'll crowd those events. And when you crowd the events, the chances are 50-50 or 70-80.
And also it increases the participation within those events, because now people can actually, like there's a time I was telling a swimmer that your breaststroke time is putting you at number 1 or number 2 in the country.
Yes.
You might actually have an opportunity to get selected. And I could see a light come on, and they're like, okay, I think changes. I can try this.
Yes.
And they have moved from a very competitive stroke to this one, because they have realized there's a gap here and I can be able to raise the standards. So let's go. We're almost towards the end, and I need to ask you. Our podcast is about developing athletes long-term.
Okay.
How does selection criteria affect long-term athlete development?
I'll start with the most common one, the psychological effect. The psychological effect. If you're number 1 in breaststroke in the country, 200 breast, and you're consistently not chosen because you don't have 500 FINA points, you will ask yourself, why am I doing this? And nobody will actually give you the answers, because the system already knocked you out. So psychologically, the selection system, if it's not event-based threshold, then it kills talent and the mental breakdown of swimmers. I asked most swimmers, the older swimmers at galas, they're like, hey, coach, how are you? I'm like, why did you stop swimming? Because I was never being selected, and I was the best in the event. So I find psychologically, it really beats these swimmers, and now they end up hating the sport. The next thing is age bias. I already said it early. If you look at the FINA points and not look at the performance, the younger swimmers will never get opportunity to actually compete at very high-level competitions. We will do what you call recycling of swimmers, which apparently has happened a lot in Kenya.
Right. The same who go for Ghana, they go for Africa Champs, they go for Olympics, they go for all of them.
You're recycling swimmers because you're dependent on those World Aquatics. Compared to, let's say today, you have 4 swimmers who are actually very good to make the finals, to actually make the national team. They don't have FINA points, but clearly you've seen at the gala, the last interclubs, one of your swimmers swam really well. Actually was number 2 in that heat and is the youngest. So why won't you give that person an opportunity? I'm just asking hypothetically. Now that's where it's age biased. You will consider the person with the highest FINA points and consistently make this person do the same events, same swims, same freestyle. Then you'll forget the same handed fly swimmer who would go for the international meet and actually perform way better than the recycle swimmer. And the last one that actually affects most swimmers is there's no pathway. With the consideration of consistent FINA points selection, it has to be FINA points, World Aquatics. You find that the pathway is not very clear because nobody knows who will be chosen. Everybody know who is going next based on the FINA points. So you find that a big chunk of swimmers who would actually make the national team break when they're halfway. And the pathway is now, they can see the pathway clear because the FINA points always come first. So I think that's it, yeah.
Perfect. And to my last question, this one is quite open.
Yeah.
If you were to change one thing about the current swimming system in Kenya, it doesn't have to be FINA points,
Yeah.
it doesn't, anything that you feel is really broken that we need to change, what would it be? And what would you put in place of that?
That's a tough question, but it's there definitely. It should be one thing, communication. I don't think if we'll have these consistent fights, pushover, everybody having an opinion, if everything is articulated, communicated, and well written down. And I don't see the reason why the federation cannot communicate early, openly, accept feedback, and make changes. You might not want to listen to the stakeholders, but at least when you come to decision making, they will feel heard. So for me, it would be communication. And the last one would be systems. Put systems in place. The systems will be there. They can say systems are there, but we don't see the systems working. If you have a system, you come to my club, you will meet the admin, you will sign up, you will meet one of the coaches, you will be, in that meeting, you'll be asked a few questions. If you're not happy with that, you don't join. If you're happy with everything across the way, that's a system. Okay. Like right now, we have like 50 people want to join the club, but they're not meeting our criteria of selection. Okay. So by having a system, you sieve out so many things, and you actually now have a pool of serious people who have a direction that bring that pathway conversation.
In fact, here at Beyond Talent, we say talent doesn't win, systems win.
Systems.
And when we're talking about communication, now let's give you a story as we're ending. When I went for World Champs, I was communicated 2 weeks prior that I'm going for World Champs. And that was it was a December World Champs, December 15th or 18th, I can't remember. First of all, I have already taken a break from swimming.
Oh.
I'm now heading towards holiday mode. You receive an email or a letter being told, I can't even remember how they communicated to me, and that was over 15 years ago.
That's a long time.
All African Games, I think I was told a week. I was in deep the season. We were deep in the season. In fact, my coach had to move me to the taper lane.
Yeah.
A week to All African Games. I was fatigued. I was tired. And so these communication things have not changed. And I think even something needs to be communicated for an Olympic cycle. I think we need communication to come early.
Communicate.
Before the Olympic
12
cycle.
to 18 months.
And then even for those 4 years, we can clearly know for this after 2028, we need to have a clear criteria for the next 4 years. No one is arguing. And we all agree, stakeholders agree, and it's passed. So thank you so much, Coach Kassim, for coming. And as I said again, he's a Sailfish Swim Club. There are very few coaches who I see eye to eye with regards to philosophy. He's one of them. He's running a fantastic club, a fantastic program. So any parting shots before we close it?
I'll say one thing that most parents don't want to hear. There's no 12 and under who's an elite.
I love that.
That's my last parting shot.
I love
12
that.
and under, there's no elite 12 and under. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach Kassim.
Asante.
We're out.